He already had it. That fish showed itself. He come up chasing something. That's medium. There's a small, a medium, and a large. That's medium that's in there. So we are down here actually during the Bass Pro Tour Stage 1 on Lake Sam Rayburn. And since I had such a great first couple of days winning my qualifying round, making it automatically in the championship, I've got a couple of days off. So let's hop in the truck. Let's ride up the road. This is a little lake that actually Kelly Jordan told me about and said it's supposed to be pretty good. Given the time of the year and that this is a smaller body of water, I'm really expecting there to be a lot of fish on the bed. So if we get there, and there are, I want to really go through a few different things that I like to do to catch spawning fish. And hopefully we can get some underwater of this going on. This should make for a really fun day. So come on, let's hop in the truck. It's going to be a little bit of a truck ride, but the good thing is the small body of water, we ought to be able to break it down pretty quick. So I just got the boat put in the water here on this little lake in Texas. And some of the first things that come to mind, at the boat ramp, I could see a lot of hydrilla. So that is excellent. I looked at it on Google Earth too, and you could tell, you know, the lake has hydrilla in it for sure. And being here this morning, I could see it there at the boat ramp. But also fairly clean water, actually really clean water. So if there are any fish spawning, the water's 64.5. I'm going to guess that there should be some fish spawning, being that we're here in late March, clear water, and it's up in the morning. It's 9:30 right now, so you know if there was any type of morning bite, I've already missed that. But I'm going to just put the trolling motor down. I don't know that any one part of this place is going to be better than the other. I'll probably be able to fish most of a lap around it today. It's not a huge lake. But I'm just going to get on the shoreline and go. There's a few boat docks. Looks like some shoreline grass and stuff. And that hydrilla, looking at it on side imaging, it comes out to like 12 feet, but it's pretty thick. It's a little bit thicker up there up shallow. It's not matted or anything like that, but as clear as this water is, if there's some spawning, we should be able to see them, and that could make for a really exciting day if we find one of them great big Texas giants laid up on a bed. So I'm just going to pull in here, get a few rods out. First thing that comes to mind is a swim jig. A wacky worm definitely does. A frog, given a lot of the shoreline stuff, definitely a frog. That's probably going to be what I start with. Probably be those three. If I don't feel like those fish are up tight, then I'm going to pull out a jerk bait. If I had a big swim bait with me, that's what I would put on, like a big glide bait, something to really draw those fish out. But yeah, that's kind of going to be what I'm going to start with. There's a few scattered docks. We're coming up on a dock here. I'm just going to go ahead and start. I've just idled away from the ramp a little bit. And the nice thing about a smaller body of water like this, you know, if I was on a big lake, the first place I think of those fish spawning is in, you know, the backs of pockets, the back of those bigger creek arms. And they'll certainly spawn in these pockets. This lake has some, you know, it's got some little fingers and stuff, but on a smaller body of water, a lot of times you don't have to get way back because, you know, even if the wind blows hard out of the south coming across the lake this way, I mean, it's going to be a little bitty chop over here. So those fish don't have to get so protected to go to spawn just because it is a smaller body of water. So I've put the trolling motor down and just kind of been looking, covering water, and definitely a lot of beds. I think I've seen a fish on nearly every bed so far. I've not seen any giants, but some nice ones. So there's definitely a big bright bed right here. Picked up my wacky worm to drop in there on him, see if he'll. I've not actually seen the fish yet, but I guarantee there's one on it. A lot of fish spawning on this little lake right now. Look at that white spot up under that dock over there. Oh, there's a good fish. Yep. I saw that fish. I saw that bed from a long ways off. And then oh, she's got me in the grass. Just got to keep pressure on her. I'm glad I've got a 12-pound leader on there. And she got me hung up good. Come out of that stuff. She's got me balled up in that hydrilla. Yeah, that's a pretty nice one. It's my first bite on this little lake. Come here. Look at all the grass on her head. She don't even know what's going on. Dude, that is a good, look at that. Look how dark that fish is. I saw her sitting up there on that bed and I twitched that little wacky stick out. She went, doop. That's so good. Down there inside of her mouth. Dude, that fish looks like it come out of Florida. Look at how black that fish is. That is crazy. That's a beautiful one, man. Pinned in there with that weedless Nico hook. We've been out here, I've been fishing about 7 minutes. And that's probably that's a good 4-pounder, I'd say. That is a pretty fish. One thing to always keep in mind when, especially when the first wave of fish start spawning, is that a lot of them will spawn super shallow, especially in that first wave, because the water's, the water's cooler. I think like on Lake Fork last year in the Bass Pro Tour, it was like the first wave of fish spawning, and they were just super shallow, like between 6 and 18 inches is where most of those fish were at. But the water was 59 to 61 or so degrees. Just laid my frog down and went back to the wacky worm because there's so many bass. I mean, I'm seeing fish cruising, the ones that are sitting on the bed, they're making wakes like this one right up here in front of the boat. I know bass are seeing that frog, but they're not biting it. So it makes it easy for me to lay it back down, and I'm going to try something else. I've picked up the wacky worm again right now, but anytime that fish are seeing your bait, but they're not reacting to it, you probably ought to lay it down and go ahead and try something else, because when you're around as many as what I know I'm around right now, you should be getting bites. There's so many fish, I think in this lake, but certainly right here where I'm at right now. No reason to stay with it if it's not working. There's something else that will work better. There's one. I was just jiggling it on this bed. I actually never saw him. I was just knew there should be a fish around. There's been one on nearly every bed, so I was just shaking it, and he finally picked it up. They're not actually being that easy, if I'm being honest about it. I've seen hundreds of bass at this point, but they're not just, you fire that thing out there in front of them and they just eat it up. They're being fairly difficult. That is a solid little fish right there. Go ahead and let him go. Yeah, there's a pair on this bed. They're just not being overly easy. There's actually like 4 bass right there together. That Tokyo rig with the swim bait is dynamite on the bed. I mean, that's like one of my go-tos, kind of a secret weapon that really works. And I mean, that fish never left. I bumped him with it and everything, but he would not bite. I mean, I've fished hard for that fish right there and nothing. So I've put on a top water, this X-Wrap prop, and these fish are active, and I've saw them running a lot of bait. There's actually 3 on that bed right now. But there's a lot of small, I don't know if they're shiners or what, that are in there around a lot of them's beds, and a lot of times that prop bait, just twitching it over top of their head. It's a great thing in Florida, but it'll work anywhere. So I'm gonna try it some, see if it'll get them into biting. clear as this water is, a long cast on those bedded fish can really help, help get a lot of them to commit. Golly, it thumped it, man. How you thump it like that and not have it? It's biting every pitch now, which is obviously what you want. You get a fish fired up. And sometimes, if it keeps biting it and I keep missing it, I'll switch baits, but sometimes you can get it fired up on one bait and then throw something else in there and actually get it to eat it. Like, the swim bait's kind of big. And I can make it mad, maybe then drop my wacky worm in there and boom, it just swallows it. Broke it off like a dummy. Well, I got it to eat it finally, and then I broke it off. It's about to jump again out there. Sorry, fish. That was not intentional. Oh, it threw it good. Right there was my bait. Sorry about that. I didn't know that fish had it either. I was up shallow up on that bed. And the perfect white spot right up there, right up on that point. And I saw the fish up there, but I never saw it bite my bait. Never saw it move or anything. And finally, the fish starts moving and my line goes with it. She had that little wacky sticko down in her goosel. That's pretty fun. Just cruising these banks. And there's probably fish, that are not spawning, but they're just gonna be hard not to just sight fish and throw at beds all day. That fish has got it ate. I'm gonna let that fish keep the hook. That's sometimes when they get it eat like that, you're better off just to cut it off. It's not worth digging out of there. But if you do that, always make sure you get your piece of plastic out. That fish will be fine. That hook will rust out. And actually it's barely in there. I can see now that I've got my worm out of the way. Pulled it out. Good. Still got that out. That's a chunk, dude. Pretty little fish. Never knew it was there, It's just crazy. There's a little one. There's one that's got it. Little squirt. There wasn't the one I could see. There's a different one. Swam over and ate it. They were both about the same size though. The low pounders. Wacky worm munchers. And there's a fish. I'll hit him right on the head too. Oh, that's sweet. That's a good one too. I just easing that wacky worm along in this bed and it went, I seen it go thump. Get out of that grass, come here. He's got a mouthful of grass, he don't want to do anything else. When I pull this out, he's gonna go nuts. See? If I was in a tournament, I would have just lifted him right there. Come here, buddy. And that's, in my opinion, dude, that's a male. I'm 99% sure in saying that. I mean, you can tell by how beat up looking that fish is. It's pretty thin. I'm telling you, that is a male. I can't wait to find one of these females pulled up here on a bed. That is a big old Texas male. on the wacky sticko. I'm back in the back of the pocket now, and there's beds everywhere. There's fish swimming right here. There's just fish using all these beds back in here. That's so much fun. We're gonna grab a picture of her or him before we let him go. I've been out here for a couple hours, maybe hour and a half or something at this point. And no question, there are a big percentage of the fish in this lake are spawning, and in some phase of the spawn, where they're actually locked on a bed, or they're just up there cruising around. I've seen a couple that were actually rolling, but most of what I'm seeing, I feel like, are males. You know, I may have seen some smaller females, but I've saw one big fish so far. I've actually not went back and fished for her yet, but my take of the lake right now is that, you know, a lot of these fish are in some phase of the spawning process. So that's what I'm doing. You know, that's, in a lot of ways, that's an easy time of year to break down the lake, especially when it's a clear water place like this, because it just becomes a visual thing. You look for it, you see it, you fish. You don't actually have to, you know, you don't have to try to use your electronics or anything like that. It's literally just your eyes. That's all you need, and just go along the shoreline. So far, that's what's working. But I guarantee you, there's fish that could be, the big ones could be sitting out here. They could be waiting. They could be hunkered up in this grass or something. But as of right now, I'm liking what I'm doing, just with my eyes, looking through the sunglasses, and trying to catch these fish I can see. Oh, don't blow in here, Ripple. That's one of the males. I was like first pitch with that swim bait. He ate it. I had him bite a few minutes ago. I actually eased up to that bed and just made a long pitch in there with that Tokyo rig and that swim bait. And one bit, I jerked and missed, so we went and got set up on it. So that's medium. There's a small, a medium, and a large. That's medium that's in there. What a nice male. I don't know, 3.5, 3 3/4 pound male right there. But there's one in there much bigger than he is. Dude, that was like instantly. Pulled that thing in there. Ta-tunk. Oh, I hit her with it, dang it. That's so much fun. She's looking towards it, but she's turning on it. She's got her nose down towards it. Oh, she bit at it. Dang, I messed my bait up. Here's the problem. This is the last one of these of this size that I have. I'm gonna try rigging it. I can't even get the hook back in that. I've completely tore the nose out of it. I've got ones that are a 1/2 inch bigger. That's what I'm gonna have to go to now. Let's see. I'm gonna rig that dude up. Still fits pretty good on that 5/0. I'm gonna come back out of it just a little bit. It's a 5/0 VMC Tokyo rig. Not quite as much gap to fit that hook, but I'm gonna leave it. We'll make sure this belly is completely split so that it'll give that hook a place to ride. So that hook can boom, can go right in there. And I'm not even going to cover it. I'm just going to leave it exposed like that. So it should allow for an easy slide of the hook. One of them bit it and moved just a little bit. Whoa. That's what happens when you get excited. And then nothing. Bumped it again. I'm gonna slide in there just a little bit. Because it is important to see how that fish is reacting. You can gauge where to put the bait. You know, do you need to go just a little more left or a little more right? She bit and then she took off out of the bed. Right there she goes. Get your big butt back over there. There we go. There we go. Got her. Golly, that fish is strong, dude. Dang, she's strong. I was gonna swing her right on up in here. Caught the male and the female off of that bed, both of them on the Tokyo rig. Took a little convincing to get her to eat it. I had her bite it a few times, but I wrapped it up in a knot on here now. But that's so cool, man, to watch them, get them fired up, miss them, you know, then finally keep pestering them, get them to eat it like that. That's a good time. Off she goes. Sight fishing is you know, some people say whatever they want about it. It is a fun way to catch them, and there's definitely a art to practice in it. It's not just find a fish on the bed every time, throw a wacky worm over there and it eats it. I had fished for those with a wacky worm for several minutes, and they showed little to no interest in it. But something a little bit more aggressive sometimes can get those fish to go. So it's fun. I thoroughly enjoy doing it. One thing that I hope people will take away from this is being able to see that underwater is how much your bait moves and how quickly, you know, that bed is probably a 2-foot diameter, and just how quick you move your bait 2 feet across that bed. That's something that I think people are always unaware of when they're bed fishing, is just how quick your bait goes from outside the bed, inside the bed, outside the bed. I don't think many people realize, you know, when they are bed fishing, you know, unless you're actually close enough, you can see your bait really well. The only time that fish is going to bite is when your bait's on its bed. Occasionally want to follow it out and then bite, but for the most part, 95% of your bites come when that bait is on the bed. And just how very little it takes to move your bait from in the bed to out of the bed. So if nothing else, get that from this, especially seeing it underwater, just how quick that you go outside the bed, in the bed, truly in the strike zone, to back outside the bed again. And I try to make my presentations to where the bait lands a foot the other side of the bed. I fish it through the bed, there was a bite. And then a foot this side of the bed is all I try to do. I felt it bite, I didn't know if it had it or not. But that's all I want that fish. That's all I want my bait in there, is a foot the outside of the bed, the center of the bed, the foot the outside of the bed, because that is your strike zone when you're fishing for one that is actively spawning. If you're not in his house where he doesn't want you to be, you're not going to get that fish to bite. Tokyo rig, 4-inch swim bait. You can see that's a nice chunky male. That fish has been caught before too. That's a pretty one, dude. That is a blast catching them like that. Watching them, finding them, and then just pestering them. My brother's a couple years older than me, Sonny is, and when we were young growing up, I pestered him to no end. That's what I did. He's 2.5 years older than I am, and I always tried to make him mad anytime I got the chance. And I take my pestering frustration and I put it to these bass when they're on the bed now, and it works. Now that fish is set up there more like up on the white spot almost. Goofy thing. So this is a crack crawl. It's just a good little creature bait. It's got a lot of appendages and stuff. I really like stuff that's got a big profile like that when I'm bed fishing. He almost bit it. Oh, 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 oh. He nosed down on it and he just didn't have, oh, look at this. Golly, I don't know how he didn't eat it that time. He just went ballistic on it. Ripped off both my legs. I'm gonna flip it without any legs. Where'd he go? Oh, yep, here he comes. Golly. So what that fish is doing, I mean, he's sucking that bait so hard, but he's also blowing it out so fast. So, I mean, this fish is like fired up, okay? I'm highest percentage of landing bed fish. This is a 12-pound XPS fluorocarbon leader, 10-pound braid, but a wacky worm to me, there is no higher percentage landing a bed fish because it's weightless. They suck that thing in, there's no weight there, so they don't blow it out as quick. That's one of the main reasons I love to fish a wacky worm when fish are spawning. It's generally, not always, but generally a very high landing percentage. So, and when they suck that in, there's no weight there for them to have to pick up. That's why I like a wacky rig as good as anything when fish are on the bed, besides the fact that they just really tend to bite it. So do that a lot of times. I got that fish aggravated with a swim bait. I switched to a Texas rig and it was mad at the world, but I switched to that wacky sticko weedless Nico hook and got that fish to eat and was able to actually catch it. So don't always limit yourself to just one bait when you're bed fishing. Go through a rotation. Sometimes use one thing to make them mad and another thing to actually catch that fish. That's a great, great way to do it. That's so much fun. Anything to get the fish to move. That's a fish right there. See it kind of out here on the outside, right there.
Oh yeah. Looks like a decent fish.
I think it's nose down on it. I felt the tick, and I couldn't wait. I saw that fish sitting there, pitched my swim bait in there, and it bit it like instantly. I just couldn't even help myself. I couldn't wait to get the camera up. So that's a nice one. That's pretty sweet. Saw a bed out there, and that fish was a perfect indicator of what they'll do when they're aggressive. That fish never moved. I pitched to it. It stayed there the whole time. First pitch, jiggled the bait, boom, she ate it. That's when you know that they're an aggressive fish. It's not been messed with a lot. That's pretty cool. That one. I was able to find that fish actually because the fish yawned. I saw it in there on that bed just go. That's what I call it when they do that, is yawning. That's what it looks like. Come here, buddy. On the wacky sticko. Just put these up there, and what's neat right here on this particular spot is that it's an old road bed that it's a pretty one. It's an old road bed, and so it's a lot harder bottom, I would assume, than the rest of the ground around, and kind of makes a little point. And that's one fish, but there's like 50 beds. All around the boat, just tons and tons of beds right here, and on top of this little shallow road bed. He already had it. That fish showed itself. He come up chasing something. I threw in there, and I never felt the bite. It was just heavy. Golly, that fish is strong. Yeah, it was just heavy. Just kept pulling. I was like, that's more than some grass. That's definitely a bass. And another, golly, dude, these fish in here are just so built. That is crazy. I've not caught any just giants yet today. Man, I've caught a lot of really, really good quality fish. It ain't every day you go out and that's like the average size. Now we see some small ones, but we've yet to catch any of them. That one, I would call that a female. You can tell she's still pretty fat. Looks like she's full of eggs. That is a pretty, pretty fish. Put her back in there, let her finish her business. Thank you for the time. Appreciate the fun. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get the wacky back out. First cast. I had that fish fired up good on that swim bait. Very first cast with a wacky worm. Boom. Ate it. Very first cast. One bait to fire them up, another one to catch them. Sometimes they eat the swim bait, and it's just as good for catching them, but it sure is hard to beat that wacky worm to close the deal. These fish are so fun. Such a quality little lake. This is the first time I've ever came to this lake, and just given the time of year, you know, I expected fish to be spawning, and that's for sure been the case. I've really not tried anything else, but having no experience of this lake, I don't know if I'm maximizing it or not, but I can tell you what I'm doing is I'm having a good time, and I'm seeing a lot of fish, and I'm catching a lot of fish. So are there a bunch of 6, 8, 10 pounders in here? Maybe, I don't know, and I'm not catching them, but a lot of these fish are, you know, quality. I mean, they're ain't nothing wrong with them. So I'm just going to keep doing this and make it a fun day. So clouds have rolled in. It's a little harder to see, but we're still able to see some that's up here shallow and having a good time catching them. See, even those little small ones like that, that's the thing, is that you got to do the same things to trick a small one as you do a big one. Yeah. It's no different. One busted right over there. That's a nice one. I never even saw that fish on that bed. I just blind cast into a bed with a dark spot on it. With the wacky, Parker's favorite bait. And it's kind of mine too. I don't know where he gets that from. These fish are just built and healthy, pretty colors. I mean, they don't get any prettier. See ya. This has been a fun day. Another white spot and another white spot by a stump and another fish. I've been doing this a lot, pitching at these white spots with that wacky, and just every once in a while you'll hit one with an aggressive fish on it. Come here. Right on the hair of his chinny chin chin. Looks almost like an exact twin of the one I just caught. So many of them that are in here that are that size. Golly, what a ball. Whoa, my back reel's on. Come here, you little squirt. You got me hung up in the tree. Come out of there, buddy. It's a tree bass. It's a rare species of Amazon tree bass. In a tournament, and if that fish was scoreable, it would never stay on that long. It would have shaken off 14 times before now. But when you're just out fun fishing, he stays on every time. Little feller. Yeah, he either would have broke off, come off, jumped off, something. I was switching out my sunglasses right then and I actually caught one, but we're getting towards the evening and it's clouded up. And I switched from a gray lens to it's the Sunrise silver mirror lens. That yellow lens is so much brighter. I mean, it was like night and day difference, almost literally, of changing my lens colors right then. That's why it's always important. That's pretty much the two I carry, are the gray silver and then the Sunrise silver. And I wear gray most all the time, and then just wear the Sunrise when it's low light conditions. It makes a big difference in what you're able to see, especially when it's, you know, dark conditions. was kind of pitching more towards the right side. I'm gonna pitch over here where he's at now. Ripple I can't see. I see him still sitting over there, but I can't see good. May have to go to the swim bait, at least to get him mad. Yeah, I'm gonna try the swim bait. That didn't take long. They got me around that tree. That didn't take long with the swim bait. I actually couldn't even see the fish at the time, but I mean, when it hit it, dude, it went boom and just went the other way with it. That's so cool. Tried with the wacky worm, and he really wasn't showing much aggression towards it. Switched it up to the swim bait, and he absolutely stomped it. Actually broke my leader off my Tokyo rig. I've caught plenty on it today. Dude, that is a lot of fun. I love catching them off the bed. Switching up the lenses was important here late this evening, going to that yellow lens so I could still see them. And being able to see those fish sit up there like that, so you got to have both. So I hope that you learned something from this today. You know, a lot of different stuff that I'll try on bedfish. One thing that really never worked today that usually does is some type of topwater, whether that's a frog, prop bait, different stuff like that. That stuff never worked today. Not sure why, just the mood that these fish were in, but wacky worm, Texas rig, but especially the Tokyo swim bait was definitely the deal. What a ball. I thought we had it for a second. Where I wish I had a pink wacky worm on right now so I could see it and know what he's doing to it. Got him. Took the right little jiggle. I had him eat that swim bait a few times, but just never. The one time he really ate it good, I didn't jerk. But then finally, he bit at it several more times, but just never would quite eat it. But we finally got him on the wacky sticko. We were able to finally get him on. That's once he sucked that in, dude, it's over with. I mean, that is such a high landing percentage. That's why I love fishing with it on a bedded fish. All right, we have worked on them today. These fish, you know, spawning. I hope that you've enjoyed the way I like to go about catching spawning fish. I love doing it. There's no better rush in my opinion. I mean, a topwater bite is awesome, but whenever you visually locate that bass, you're able to set up, and then sometimes it takes just a couple minutes or one cast. You know, that fish took several minutes. I could have caught it early on, but I just didn't. I didn't pull the trigger. But yeah, sometimes it takes several minutes to be able to work that fish into biting, and I love that task of trying to find the right spot, hopping the bait just right, jerking fast enough, but not when it's outside the mouth, and switching baits. That's such a big deal with it, you know, rotating through baits. So I hope that you've liked this video, and hope you've learned something from it that you can apply next time you're out there on the water and fish are spawning. Some people absolutely hate it. They say when they see fish spawning, they run away from it. It's just an understanding thing. Once you figure it out, you learn how to make them bite, you can be very efficient with it.